This was insane. The Toronto Blue Jays in the bottom of the 8th inning were on the verge of getting swept by the Minnesota Twins on a home series that ultimately turned into a disaster. They came into the series taking 3 out of 4 against the Houston Astros, and all hope seemed lost in the 3rd game of the series until Cavan Biggio came to the plate with a man on first and second with 0 outs, with the Toronto Blue Jays down 6-4 in the bottom of the 8th, and this seemed like nothing short of a must-win. Even though it is early in the season, they need to keep winning games like this, and Cavan Biggio was the Blue Jays' only hope. He steps to the plate and hits an absolute bomb. Rogers Center goes insane. The Toronto Blue Jays are up 7-6, and this was the home run heard around Blue Jays Nation, and one that was desperately needed for not only Cavan Biggio, but the Toronto Blue Jays team and their overall coaching staff, everything. So we're going to break down this crazy game and much more on this episode of Jays Digest. What's up, Jays fans? The Gosse, your host of Jays Digest. And before we get into the video, thank you guys for your support. We are on the road to 7,500 subscribers. It would mean the world if you could do that. And like you just saw in the intro there, what a crazy game by the Toronto Blue Jays. A massive win. I tried something new there in the intro. Let me know what you think about that. But I'll show you the clip again shortly. But what a huge hit from Cavan Biggio, and what a huge win for the Blue Jays. And let's just get right into it. And the best way I could put it was no way. And like I said in the intro, the Blue Jays were on the verge of getting swept by the Minnesota Twins following taking 3 out of 4 against the Houston Astros. And, you know, as a Blue Jays fan, I was sitting here and I was wondering, like, what is going on with this team? We'll sweep teams like the Braves, then we'll get swept by teams like the Red Sox. And it was all bad for the Blue Jays coming into the bottom of the 8th, where Cavan Biggio stepped to the dish and hit an absolute moonshot, sending the Blue Jays team into a frenzy. And again, a lot of players, a lot of Jays fans on Twitter lost hope for not really the team, but for this game at the very least. And, you know, people were looking on to Tuesday because obviously there's an off day tomorrow, but a sigh of relief for Blue Jays fans. And I obviously had a huge sigh of relief once Cavan Biggio hit that home run. But we'll get into everything in this game. We'll get into the pitching that has been lackluster, this game at least. The hitting that was a little bit lackluster up until that bomb, and we'll get into Kevin Gausman as well. But let's just start with the box score in case you missed this crazy game. George Springer's starting to get back to himself. He went 1 for 3 with 2 walks. Bo Bichette had a pretty poor game. Vladdy went 2 for 5, so not too bad. And of course, Matt Chapman hit a massive 3-run. He hit a home run, which put them within a few runs there. And Dalton Varsho starting to get back on the board as well. But, you know, if we were to lose this game, I was kind of going to format this video a different way, and one that we might look at in the future. But when looking at this lineup, you have players like Nathan Lucas, Santiago Espinal, you know, players, and Cavan Biggio before that big home run, who really hasn't been performing throughout the season very well at all. The WRC Plus are way below league average. They're below league average hitters, and there's too many of those guys in the lineup with people like Kevin Kiermaier and Brandon Belt injured, and it kind of goes to show the depth that this Blue Jays team has in a bad way. We don't have very much depth right now, but let's just focus on the positives here. And Cavan Biggio was obviously the hero of today's game, and huge shout out to Matt Chapman, who's had a very, very poor past couple months, you know, besides his March/April there. But we'll just focus on the positive. Cavan Biggio, huge home run. Chapman, huge home run. You know, get the game close, because the Jays were trailing the entire game. The first inning was brutal for Kevin Gausman, and they were down 4-0, and a lot of Jays fans out there were saying, what are we going to do? This team is, you know, it's all screwed up, everything's bad, but we got the win, and it's looking like the Houston Astros might lose their game. I haven't checked the score in a couple hours, but they were down like 4-0 or something. And, you know, a lot of people say it's too early to check the standings, but I'm a standings checker. I know Peter's not like that, but overall, a phenomenal game out of the offense here. And something else to note quickly is the defense. It's been fairly solid for the past. You know, the pitching and the defense has been the story that has been very, very solid despite the offense scuffling. Biggio made a huge play late in the game. Santiago Espinal made a great play to help get Nate Pearson out of the jam. We'll touch on Nate Pearson as well. It's been absolutely phenomenal. We might even have his own video on him. But overall, a very clean-ish game for the Toronto Blue Jays, aside from Kevin Gausman himself, which we'll get into now. And the pitching struggles, huge shout out to Nate Pearson and Jordan Romano, who shut it down there in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. But, you know, Kevin Gausman, he's been such a good pitcher for us, and unfortunately, he had a pretty rough outing today. So in case you missed it, 4 2/3, 7 hits, 6 earned runs, 4 walks, and 4 strikeouts. And, you know, like some people on Twitter were saying, and like I noticed myself, who knows if Kevin Gausman was tipping his pitches, but, you know, people on the Twins, hitting staff were not biting for the splitter at all. He was throwing it out of the zone, and when the splitter isn't getting any chases, you obviously don't want to throw it in the zone very often, so it's going to lead to, 4 walks in this case, and they were all over Cavan Gausman, and that's the second time it's going to happen this season where who knows if he was tipping or not, but where he just gets kind of like shelled, but then he'll go back next start and go 7 innings strong. So I'm going to give Cavan Gausman the pass. It's not a huge deal that he gave up this run. Obviously, it was in a game that the Blue Jays really needed to win, especially going into an off day tomorrow. It's always nice winning that last game before an off day at home, and ultimately they did that. And huge shout out to Cavan Gausman for everything he's done so far throughout the season, even though he's had a pretty rough game today. But he still battled and gave 4 2/3. And I guess a quick shout out as well to Thomas Hatch, who we called up today as we sent down Bowden Francis. And a lot of people were wondering, including myself, why would you send down Francis? He had a great game yesterday. But they did it, and ultimately it kind of worked out because Thomas Hatch gave us some length and some desperately needed length today. And I don't think he's going to be with the Jays very long, but he ultimately did what he had to do, didn't give up any runs. And Nate Pearson, he has been the star of the season. Again, we'll have a video. He deserves his own video. I'll have a video coming out soon regarding him, but huge game out of him, and he's been absolutely unbelievable. 2 innings, 3 strikeouts, and overall phenomenal game for Nate Pearson. And Jordan Romano, who gave up a leadoff 4-pitch walk, stole second, and then ultimately stranded the runner on the bases there and gave us the massive win. Rogers Center was going crazy, and just a big sigh of relief for many Jays fans out there, including myself, where, a lot of people thought, including myself, that this game was wraps. I thought it was going to be over when they were down 4-0. Just with the way the offense is performing lately, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been struggling. Alejandro Kirk has been struggling. Everyone's kind of been struggling in their own ways, but the Blue Jays managed to luckily pull it off, and a lot of that was to do with the bullpen today going a combined 4 1/3, giving up no runs. And again, it was only a matter of time until the pitching staff had a little bit of a lackluster game. They've been carrying the load. Even though we only won 1 out of the 3 games this series, we should have won yesterday's game, and you could even argue we definitely should have won game 1 of this series when we had a man on 2nd and 3rd in the bottom of the 9th with no outs, and we weren't able to walk it off. The pitching staff did their job. The defense has been very, very solid. Matt Chapman has been unbelievable in the field this series and this season. But, we'll take 1 out of 3. You can't, win them all, but we'll take it where you can get it. And ultimately, we're just happy that we got 1 win out of that disastrous series, because earlier in the year when we got swept by the Red Sox, we weren't even able to grab 1. And despite us we should have won this series, hands down. Taking 1 is better than nothing, and we'll take that and be very, very happy with it. But yeah, the game was exciting. The bomb was heard around Blue Jays Nation, and one of the biggest. We might even look back, and this might be a turning point. Hopefully it is, but looking ahead now, we have an off day tomorrow, so we'll take some rest, and we start a series with Baltimore on Tuesday with facing Dean Kramer. So hopefully Chris Bassett will be ready to go for that. And the Jays, they just need to keep winning games, keep up with the wild card. It's still fairly early, but just keep winning games, keep doing your part, and as long as our hitting wakes up eventually, I think we'll be good. And hopefully none of the injuries are too bad, with Brandon Belt, who said he was feeling a bit better today. And hopefully Kevin Kiermaier, who came in to pinch run, which is a good sign, will be healthy to go and ready to go, of course, for the Baltimore Orioles series. But that'll wrap up the video. Again, let me know what your thoughts are on this kind of different style of intro and video. It means the world, all your support. We're on the road to 7,500 subscribers. We'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.